Hey, hey, folks, this is the one and only Warwolf howling out at you. Why am I howling out at you? Because I damn well feel like it. And also because we're doing yet another review for AEW Dynamite. This, of course, being a review for April the 12th, 2023. And once again, we are going a little bit explosive. Actually, we're going a lot explosive because this was a hell of a match up of matches. No, this was a hell of a lineup of matches. Excuse me. I'm having a moment. So, what do we start out with tonight? We actually start out with pure action, and it starts out with these guys. Darby Allin and Swerve Strickland. Now, I'll be honest, when I first saw this match start up, I honestly thought we were getting Darby Allin versus Brian Cage because, well, Brian Cage was involved in that attack on Darby Allin last week when the Mogul Embassy, as they're now calling themselves, were formed. I'm not exactly sure how this whole storyline is going to play out, but, there you go. We got some great match action out of these guys. Let me just put it this way. Swerve, I don't really like his promo style or what have you, but, the dude can talk and the dude can wrestle. And Darby can also wrestle one hell of a match. And we had Sammy Guevara watching this show along with Ty Mello somewhere in the back. We had Jungle Boy also watching this particular match, somewhere again in the back. Might have even been the interview area. And I just got to ask one question. I know somebody's going to have to answer this one for me. Why the hell does he keep wearing this damn thing to the ring? I'm sorry. This chain has been used to choke the man out so many times, over the, basically year by a lot of heels who are smart enough to realize, the dude's basically got this thing sealed around his throat. It doesn't come off. I think it actually has snapped off at one point. But yeah, this whole thing where he's kind of getting, that chain used against him to basically make it look like, hey, I'm going to be a chain chomp. Well, yeah, he's doing it. And he really shouldn't be. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on there with that. But I will say this. I love this match from start to finish because you basically had Darby and Swerve having some great interactions here. I love this one bit where basically, Swerve has Darby set up on the ropes, literally about to fall to the outside, jumps over the ropes and basically does something like a double stomp onto Darby, and he just falls to the floor. There's another part of the match where they start using those steel ring steps, and I'm sorry, the human body was not meant to be pulled down steel ring steps like that. They're not meant to be pulled down steps, period, but, I don't know, man. Sometimes I worry about that man's, sanity, but, he keeps doing what he's going to do. It works. It works. So they're still building the whole thing for Double or Nothing. And again, they kind of been teasing the possibility of a fatal four-way, which I think is what they're going for. And, Darby, Sammy, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, these guys have basically been kind of set up with MJF to really, potentially be building to that. And all these matches are to build that story. And if that's what they're going for, because it's one of three things I've predicted at this point, the other two being either a gauntlet match or a straight one-on-one between MJF and Jungle Boy, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. They've been building it, so credit where it is, But off of that double stomp to the outside, it looks like, Swerve potentially may have tweaked his knee. Darby starts taking full advantage. I gotta give him credit where it's due. I've rarely ever seen somebody bite another guy's foot in the wrestling ring. Seen a lot of people bite each other's heads, ears, even their hands. The foot, that's a new one. So, another great moment. We get a Poison Rana, which is basically reverse Frankensteiner. This time it's Darby doing it to Swerve to the outside, and I like the crowd. The crowd basically said it. I'm going to echo it. Holy shit. Because that was a great moment. I honestly was worried for both men at first Because no matter how well executed that is, you're still bending over backwards, sight unseen. You're really in a precarious situation there, and you got two guys trying to keep their balance on the ring in a way that will make the move work without potentially breaking either of their necks. God was obviously with them that this move went off pretty much perfectly. They look like they got beat up all the hell, but they're still able to continue on with the match. It's a great, great fight. The Mogul Embassy gets involved, but they get thrown out. We get a beautiful move by Darby, the Last Supper. That is his submission hold / pinfall thing, which I guess you can do it either way. He's mostly used it to get pinfalls, and that's exactly what he got here, defeating Swerve Strickland. And then, well, you kind of knew this was coming. We get MJF. And this kind of fits because he's almost been ignoring the other two pillars for the last couple weeks. He seemed to be very focused on Jungle Boy. He comes out and he actually starts basically talking about, hey, you got too many morals, and I got where I am because I was willing to do anything it took. Darby shuts him up with a very, very interesting counter shot here on the promos. He basically is like, are you happy? Like, after everything you've done, you're the World Heavyweight Champion, and it still doesn't seem like you're happy. And I think it's because you compromised yourself every step of the way, and, obviously it rattles MJF, and I got to give all the credit in the world to both men. This promo was phenomenally done. And I love the reactions on both guys when each of them was on the mic. Darby, we haven't heard him talk a lot, but I get the feeling he has been getting some, I think, coaching from some of the boys in the back, and that might even include Sting. And speaking of the man himself, we actually get Sting. Now, I think this is the first time we've seen him in a couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, now Sting stays, he comes out, he says I have no greed or hunger for your world title. Showtime is almost over. Then he turns and points to Darby and says, but Showtime is about to begin for this man. Darby is going to become a world champion in the near future. And I agree with him. Absolutely, I agree with Sting 100% on this. He is going to become a world champion in the very near future. The guy's a former TNT champion. I would love to see him with the world title at some point. I don't necessarily know that AEW is ready to have him run with the ball just yet, but putting him in the main event, putting him in a world title match, does show a lot of trust and a lot of faith in Darby as a competitor, which means I think at some point they are going to have him take the ball and try to run with it. And if he's even half as good with the world title as he has been with the TNT Championship, he's going to do fine. He's going to be an absolute legend in this business. And one of the things I got to bring up is, literally, we have, this moment that, in fact, is what brings Sting out, is MJF, is referring to to Sting as Darby's daddy. But he, again, when Sting comes out, he does this incredible moment where he references Cody Rhodes and points out that Cody was a support system for MJF. And then he goes on to talk about how that's not a bad thing, because he freely admits he's a support system for Darby, and that he's paying it forward because he had a lot of support when he was an up-and-comer in the business. He pays tribute to Ric Flair, calling him Slick Rick, saying, love you, Nature Boy, and I think a lot of us do too. He references the NWO, specifically references the Wolfpack as well. And again, God bless Scott Hall. We miss him every day. He mentions Kevin Nash, and, the fans obviously were absolutely 100% behind it. I was absolutely 100% behind it, because it's very clear that Sting had a lot of growing to do when he first came into the business, and he got help every step of the way, and it's made him into the legend he is today. And obviously, MJF, I think, does have support backstage because there's a lot of people, I think, who do see him as a great talent. I'd love to see him try to play face full time because he's played with it in the past. He seems right now a little bit more comfortable as a heel, but I think part of that is like because he can play that arrogant asshole very, very well. I mean, he does this with Darby during this promo, like the whole shitty little emo schmuck. I mean, again, MJF is Jewish. This is the kind of phrase he might use. My father is Jewish. My mother is Catholic, so I'm a little bit of a religious hybrid. I believe my father is also Jewish in terms of not just religion, but also of direct Hebrew descent. So there's that as well. So, I think he'd probably get a kick out of MJF if he were a bigger fan of professional wrestling. He's really not, but I think he'd get a kick out of it. I will say the other thing that I loved about MJF was his whole thing where he says to Darby, "You are not on the level of the devil." Again, it's funny. And it's the kind of thing a heel wrestler would say. It's like, again, clearly he's gotten a lot of support backstage, and I think they've helped him to develop as a heel. And this is a lot of stuff that I think that he got out of that. And this, of course, all from right before we get that bit from Darby where he shuts him down with that whole "Are you happy?" thing. And, again, it's a great, great promo altogether. So next we get Powerhouse Hobbs doing an open TNT Championship challenge match. And he gets put up against somebody named Silas Young. I don't really know much about him, but Powerhouse Hobbs just pretty much runs through him. And then we get Wardlow making a return, and Wardlow is back, and apparently he's got a hate on for this car. Why does he have a hate on for this car? Well, it's actually something that was given to Powerhouse Hobbs by QT Marshall. Of course, QT Marshall helping Powerhouse Hobbs to steal the TNT Championship from Wardlow right after the pay-per-view. Obviously, Wardlow very, very upset about that. The TNT Championship means a lot to him. Obviously, he feels it gives him a certain connection to his father, whether or not this is a real-life thing or if this was just part of the storyline, either way. But, yeah, he starts beating the living hell out of this car, but let's be honest, I think the forklift is what really won that fight. And no, I'm not trying to be facetious here. He literally took a forklift to this car, lifted it up, and tipped it on its side, and I think it fell straight over like a second or two later. So, that's really impressive. I don't think I've seen that all that often. I've seen a lot of different ways to destroy a car, but a forklift is rarely used. So I like that they're building that particular whole thing up. We got this promo after that. Switchblade Jay White, of course, has been in and out of a couple of different promotions. It looks like he's now part of AEW proper. Him and Juice Robinson, they're making some comments suggesting that Bullet Club is going to be, potentially joining AEW, so it may not just be those two guys, which means the tag team titles, the trios belts, the TNT Championship, the world title, they're all going to potentially have those in their sights, and every champion has probably just been put on notice if that is indeed them basically saying the entire Bullet Club is coming to AEW. Well, next we get the AEW International Heavyweight Championship. Now, I honestly got to say I like this belt. It still kind of reminds me of the Lucha Underground Gift of the Gods title, and I don't know why. Somebody out there could probably tell me if they are that similar in design, because it's been a while since I've seen the Lucha Underground Gift of the Gods belt, but, to me, they do have this belt designed in a way that reminds me of that particular championship. It's a very, very odd thing that every time I see this, I keep thinking of that title, but I keep thinking of that title every time I see this belt. And we get Orange Cassidy defending the championship against 1/3 of the World Trios champions, one Buddy Matthews. Now, this is the former Buddy Murphy from WWE, used to be the quote-unquote disciple of Seth Rollins, then broke away from Rollins, had that storyline romance with Rey Mysterio's daughter. Obviously, that didn't go anywhere, at least in terms of the TV series stuff that they were doing. If there is a real-life romance going on behind the scenes, I don't know about it, but the TV series stuff for SmackDown, obviously that would have ended when Matthews departed the company. So they did kind of set up the possibility that Orange Cassidy could have to, at some point, relinquish the International Championship rather than being forced to, well, not forced, but being in a situation where he's going to end up jobbing out and losing the title directly. I think this could be what they're going for, because they seem to be setting up the idea that Cassidy has legitimately injured his hand. I don't know if he actually has. A week or so back, he went after Buddy Matthews with the Orange Punch. It was intercepted by Matthews using the World Trios title, and they've been playing that up ever since. And this match was pretty damned awesome. Buddy Matthews reminding us exactly why WWE called him up to the main roster, why he was working with a upper level card to main event card individual such as Seth Rollins. And he puts on a hell of a match alongside Orange Cassidy. They start out with a lot of attempts to nail each other with moves off the ropes. Doesn't really work out. They finally start getting a little bit more physical. We get this beautiful moment where they have this, shot here where he gets hit by the Orange Punch, right? After basically Cassidy, gets an early lead in the match. He goes for that Orange Punch, but he can't capitalize on it because of the fact that he may have aggravated whatever injury he's got going to his hand. He had that hand taped up. He absolutely had that hand taped up. And there's this one moment I absolutely found hilarious. Buddy gets thrown to the outside of the ring. He comes back in the ring. He's getting ready to get back up off the mat. And, Orange just kind of puts his hands out in this absolutely bizarre moment of, utter mind games. Let me see if I can bring this up here. So I'm gonna do this right here, right now. And I mean, you tell me this isn't just him, potentially screwing with somebody's head here. I mean, this is just straight up, him playing mind games. That's all this is. This is just, Orange Cassidy just hey, hang on a minute. And weirdly enough, Buddy kind of does. Now, obviously, that did not last long, and we did eventually get to other things happening there. But, the one thing I really thought was great was that they have, this incredible, set of spots where they do several attempts with, they do, this DDT off the top rope. They do several attempts with the, with the Orange Punch. And every time he cannot follow up on it because of the injury. And I loved how they made that work because, it makes all the sense in the world that if he's injured, he's not going to be able to really, make any real, advantage of it. Because even if he hits it, he can't follow up. During the break, Cassidy gets beat up a bit as Buddy Matthews starts to, get more of the advantage. There's a moment where he hits the beach break on Matthews outside on the apron, and ultimately Cassidy has to use the mousetrap, which was a move we rarely see from him, to get the win. He's retaining the championship, but We don't know how much longer that's going to be a thing. He may have to start wearing some kind of protective gear on his hand. I don't know if they would let that happen. It could be a cast moment. Like, we could see this be a thing, or he could be in a situation where they may have him relinquish the championship. I don't know. We got next, very weird promo by Christian Cage. Luchasaurus, again, shows up. And, I do believe we're going to see them show up in the very near future, probably to take on Jungle Boy. I really hope that they're going to let him kind of go his own way, but we'll see what happens. The Best Friends then do a promo afterwards, and yeah, it's very clear that hand is damaged. The Best Friends are saying, oh no, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. But no, it's very clear that hand is injured. I think either he's losing the title soon or he's going to be forced to relinquish it due to injury. But there could be some more championships in the near future for the Best Friends. Specifically because they are challenging Aussie Open to a match this Friday, as Aussie Open just recently picked up the IWGP World Tag Team Championships, or I believe it's the World Tag Team titles that they call them there. But either way, even if it's just the IWGP Tag Team titles, it's still a Tag Team Championship, and very clearly, the Best Friends want it. And that is confirmed, by the way. That's happening. So then we get, or we're supposed to get, rather, the Blackpool Combat Club versus Brandon Cutler and Mike Nakazawa. Instead, we get Ethan Page. Now, Ethan Page, right? Ethan Page demands answers like, why the hell did Matt Hardy set me up? I thought we were friends, blah, 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 blah. Here comes Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy, one half of Private Party. And they basically say, well, we had this thing set up with the match where if Hook retained the championship, we're free of the firm. And that actually happened. So theoretically, they are technically free of the firm. There's another match that's being set up, and I'm going to assume that's going to be a Double or Nothing. But here comes the rest of the firm. But then we get Hook coming down. So we get basically 3-on-3. It's, Ethan Page, Big Bill, and Lee Moriarty taking on Hook, Isaiah, and Matt Hardy. And then we got one hell of a moment. And what kind of a moment are we talking about? Well, boom. Jeff Hardy is back. And I'll be honest, I kind of heard that he potentially had gone to prison. I don't know if that's legit. I just know that's what I heard. So Jeff is back. We don't know exactly what they're going to do with him at this point. Now, Jeff has had his problems in the past with, let's be honest, substance abuse. I don't believe that's why he was out most recently. I think that was some kind of a run-in with the law, which is why, like I said, I thought he had gone to prison. And maybe I am simply just misremembering a rumor. But either way, Jeff is back, and holy crap! I mean, that was an incredible moment. When I heard the news, like, holy shit, Jeff's back, and I thought maybe this was one of their proteges or something, using Jeff's music, but no, it's straight up Jeff. So there you go. Then we get a promo from Kenny Omega, and this is probably the least bombastic I think I've ever seen Kenny Omega, but at the same time, it's also one of the most intense promos we've ever gotten from him, where he talks about how, to him, Don Callis is family, and this is not about blood for blood. This is him seeking vengeance, for lack of a better term. Then we get the Blackpool Combat Club taking on, Cutler and Nakazawa. And, it's an incredible fight. And unfortunately, it does not really go the way that they expected. So how do I mean that? It is literally just this incredible, thing where the BCC basically mugged them. They basically just mugged them. And, I mean, this match didn't even really get off the ground, right out of the gate. It started out outside the ring, and they, I give them all the credit in the world. We don't really see Cutler wrestle all that much. I don't think I've ever seen Nakazawa wrestle more than maybe once since seeing the Elite in AEW. And I don't really know much about either man, but they have been kind of in the orbit of the Elite for pretty much the entirety of their time there. And I will give these men all the credit in the world. For guys that we barely see wrestle all that much, at least on the main show, they put up a hell of a fight. Nakazawa gets bloodied and beaten. Cutler is busted open despite that mask. Ultimately, the BCC win because, the ref finally just has to stop the match because, it was getting absolutely brutal. So, give them all the credit in the world. They stuck it out. They lost by referee stoppage, but they stuck it out. But then, out of nowhere, Kenny Omega pops up. And Omega, everybody thought he wasn't there, that he was doing a promo from Don Callis' hospital or whatever it was. We thought the Bucks were still out. And they're back. And holy crap. This was incredible. And this is just a straight up, utter, complete beatdown of the BCC by the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. You can see Cutler in the corner there. He's just battered and bruised and bloodied, and Nakazawa is on the other side of the ring out on the floor. And the BCC, obviously we're not expecting the sudden return of the Elite in terms of them being back in full force, because now it's basically all 5 of them. So, the Bucks and Omega, they very much focused on Jon Moxley, which I can sort of see. There's definite history there between Moxley and Omega. Of course, Moxley lost the title through very controversial means thanks to Don Callis about 2 years ago to Kenny Omega, and obviously they have not forgotten each other. They then pull out a screwdriver, and it was very clear that they wanted to do to Jon Moxley what they had seen done by the Blackpool Combat Club to Don Callis and Hangman Adam Page, where they basically, were put out, at least for the time being. We don't know how. I honestly don't know how the situation is going to go with Hangman Adam Page. I don't know if they took it. I think the storyline was that they took it to the eye, but it could have been just to the face. Either way, very brutal moment. Very, very brutal moment. Moxley escapes thanks to Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. That feud is going to continue on. It's going to be a very, very interesting situation either way. And I think they're going to be set for a collision course of some kind come Double or Nothing. We get this weird promo by the Mogul affiliates and the embassy, now collectively known as the Mogul Embassy, which is weird. They even seem to hint that they might have even more members than what they already had between the two different stables already. Swerve's I think I still got some unfinished business here, and, at the time, I didn't really think that much about it, because, okay, whatever the hell. Next, we got this great women's match. Riho and Sky Blue taking on Toni Storm and Ruby Soho of the Outcasts. All 4 women putting on a hell of a match. Riho, I got to give her all the credit in the world. This is a former women's world champion in AEW, and I think she might be the smallest and the lightest out of all 4 women, but she hits like a woman much heavier, and it's very, very impressive. The Outcasts do end up winning, but ends up being a hell of a match. We get an appearance by Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. And I think we're definitely looking at seeing a potential match, whether that be one of the Outcasts versus Jamie Hayter for the championship, or if that's going to be some kind of a trios match or something. I don't know. But then we get our main event. It's Chris Jericho versus Keith Lee. And I got to say, I was very surprised to see that Jericho had the advantage most of this particular bout. Keith Lee is obviously a much, more physically heavy-set man. Usually no-sells a lot of blows by smaller guys unless they're able to put a lot of force behind them. But Jericho had the advantage almost the entire way through the match for a while. And I gotta say, Keith Lee, I guess he's either stopped dyeing his hair or he just spontaneously went completely gray in the hair, beard, and mustache, and he looks weird that way. It'll take me a little while to get used to that, I think. Swerve gets involved, and this was apparently the unfinished business that he was talking about earlier, and I guess that kind of makes sense because he's still upset that he wasn't able to, I guess, lead Keith Lee into doing what he wanted. Jericho gets the win, and Adam Cole comes out to basically, keep from Lee getting attacked potentially after the match by Jericho and Daniel Garcia, who looked like they probably would have been willing to do so as a message of some sort, either to Lee himself or to Adam Cole. And I do believe we are going to be seeing potentially Jericho versus Cole at Double or Nothing. It might even be a tag match of some type, unless they, because again, it seems like Keith Lee and Adam Cole, they're saying, well, they were rivals at one point before Cole suffered his, I believe it was a concussion, and unless he's going to go after Swerve Strickland, I wish to be here. We could even see Jericho and Swerve versus Adam Cole and Keith Lee. Now, this could mean that maybe the Mogul Embassy is looking to possibly join forces with the Jericho Appreciation Society. I don't know if that's the case or not, but we do have potentially that coming up, and I would absolutely love to see where we're going with that. We could be seeing the formation of some kind of super stable, although those rarely last long due to the clash of egos. So I think this would be a short-term storyline at best, but who knows? Who knows? That's pretty much the show, and I thought it was one of the better shows we've had in a while, which is saying something because all the episodes I've reviewed so far, I absolutely have been enjoying. I believe they said we're getting like a 9 or 9:30 showing of Rampage this Friday. I'm gonna try to do a review for that. So at this point, we know where some of the storylines I think are going forward for Double or Nothing. I mean, I could be wrong. I just know what I'm seeing right here, and based on what I'm seeing, I think that's where my predictions are going to lay. Like I said, my biggest interest right now is the world title picture, just because normally you would see somebody like MJF potentially facing off against some of the more established stars. I like that they're building up the pillars and really giving them a chance to shine. So we'll see exactly where that whole thing goes. Like I said, my initial prediction was Fatal 4-Way, but I do see two other possibilities. The other two being, of course, the Gauntlet match, and the last one being potentially just straight up Jungle Boy versus MJF, simply because he was the one that, for the most part, he has been largely focused on. And I think that is because there seems to be a more interesting reaction when those two are facing off as opposed to all four. But I do think at some point we're going to see all four of these guys in the ring together, and it could be at Double or Nothing. It could be at a later date. I don't know. They gave us some more information about The Wembley Stadium event, August 27th, will be All In, which I think might even be replacing All Out, which is another pay-per-view they have used in the past. And I believe that was in, what was it, like September or October, like a year and a half ago, whatever it was, when Adam Page became world champion. So that's basically there to celebrate 100 years of Wembley Stadium, 100 years of Warner Brothers. So very, very interesting situation there. Obviously, if you do have the chance to go and watch this, as it actually takes place at Wembley Stadium, by all means, please go for it, because I don't think you will be disappointed. I really don't think you'll be disappointed. The world title situation, we don't know what that's going to look like after Double or Nothing, but I do believe it will have some kind of an impact on Forbidden Door 2, which I think is going to be sometime, I think they said that's going to happen during the summer as well, if I'm remembering right. Let me see if I can double check here. I think I remember them mentioning this. They did not give us an exact date, I think. I thought I remembered hearing it was going to be sometime in June, but I'm not sure if that is, in fact, going to be a pay-per-view. For all we know, that could be a 2-hour or even 2-night event. So we'll see what happens there. I love the first Forbidden Door event. That, of course, was AEW doing a cross-promotional event with New Japan Pro Wrestling. We will see what happens. I love that they're working together with these guys. And, any chance to see great Japanese talent is always worth it. So that is basically my review for this week. I know it's a little bit rambly, but, even with the script, there's only so much I can do because there's just so much to enjoy about these particular episodes. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a ramble, but you'll have to bear with me on that, folks. So anyway, if you happen to like this video, please give it a like. Give me a subscribe. That's going to help out against the YouTube algorithm, because good Lord, those guys cheat even more than the JAS, the Mogul affiliates, and the Embassy combined. Hit that notification bell. Leave me a comment, a question, whatever you got on your mind. I will try to respond as best I can. I am going to start doing some more anime reviews. In fact, I'm going to do anime reviews, period, in the upcoming weeks and months. If anybody happened to have seen my review of the Super Mario Brothers movie, that was a very quick, non-spoiler review. I will talk a little bit more at length about it, maybe in a couple of days to a week, once, it's been out for a little bit more than just, around like a week or so. Again, if you guys had any thoughts about tonight's episode of Dynamite, please let me know. Again, I am not sure if I want to do MLW, but if you guys really want to see it, please let me know in the comments. I will potentially see about if it's really worth it. Because I've only seen like one episode so far. I don't know if it's for me, but again, I'm here to review stuff that I hope people would want to see, so let me know what you do want to see. Anyway, folks, this is Warwolf howling out at you. Have a good night. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, hit that, subscribe button, and I will see you next time the bell rings.